All right, today I'm going to be showing you how to create a median, roadway median in an assembly. And let me kind of zoom around here a little bit, bring in some pictures here. The concept we need to create here through these two pictures is we want to tie our roadway into our finished ground center line, which is going to be at this point right here, but I then need to calculate where the edge of pavement is going to be, and we're going to do that using a link assembly at a slope or grade. And one of the things you can do is you can make the link itself invisible so you don't get that line work in your cross sections or in your corridor model. And by doing that, we can then calculate what the offset point is. And then from this marked point here, we can attach our pavement section, our median curb assembly, our subassembly pieces, and build our assembly out. The second piece to this then is to finish it off, we need a link across the top going from back of curb to back of curb, and I need that to be variable, so as I transition my pavement sections, or if we alternate the grade or elevation of our edge of pavements on the two sides of the road, I want to have a link that connects from back of curb here across, so we get a nice straight grade across there. And we do that with two sub-assemblies. And the first one I'll attach is what's called a marked point, and we'll attach that to the back of curb here, and we'll give that a unique name, and then we'll attach to the back of this curb what's called a link to marked point, where we'll tell it the other end gets connected to the marked point that we created on the right side. And that will then complete that link. And what we'll do is I'll try to build this and then build a quarter of it, and then we'll apply some transitions to put in, say, a left turn pocket on our median, and this should hopefully work for us as I go here. So that's what I'm going to attempt to do. And so let me move this back out of the way. And I've got one assembly already done. This is what I want to end up with, basically an assembly that looks like this with our components hanging off of our assembly marker here. And I'm going to modify it just a little bit. Instead of using the stock urban curb and sidewalk, I've got a custom sidewalk that I've drawn as a 2D polyline, and what it does is it has a gutter pan, but then it has an arced rolled curb shape, and then built-in sidewalk all as a single piece. And what I'll do is I'll convert that to a sub-assembly, and then we'll attach that on the back of curb to finish it off. And I'm not going to do any daylight on this one, just to speed things up a little bit. So let me start off. I'm going to create my assembly, and let me type in my assembly name. Hopefully I got it there. So, didn't get the whole thing. Let me copy that for future references. I'm going to skip the description for now. Assembly style is fine. And usually for my assemblies, I'm using the style here called roadway with point markers, because I need those point markers to select to attach the adjacent sub-assembly. So I need something to grab onto. So I'm going to turn on this one with point markers, and that layer is fine, and we'll just pop right in the middle here. All right, so there's my assembly. So the first piece I want to put in is the links that let me know where my mark points, or where my edge of pavement points are going to be for my left and right median islands or median curbs. So I'm going to come in to the tool palette here, and I'm on the Imperial generic tab, and the one I want to use is this link, offset, and slope. So let me go ahead and pick on that one, and my properties window will come off, and I'm going to make it default. I'm going to start 8 foot wide. I'm not going to use super elevation. I can, if I know I want to super elevate my roadway, I can tell it to use the same super elevation parameters that I'm applying to my pavement section. But for now, I'm going to say leave that at none. And then my slope, I want to go down away from my median, or from my center line, so I'm going to actually go -2 here. And I'm not going to worry about my link codes, because I'm not going to apply this link, so I'm actually going to change the omit option here to yes. And that's actually going to hide the link. And then what I'll do is I'll attach it to my assembly. And what you'll see then is I get just the circle here indicating where the outermost point on that link is. So I get the inner link here and our mark point and then the outer point. All right, then we go ahead and I'm going to change this now to -8, and we'll come in and then we'll pick again here, and that will put my marker out on to the left side. All right, so let me hit return a couple of times. So I've now calced out at 2%, -2% grade away from my center line where my edge of pavements are going to be located. And just to keep things a little nice here, I'm going to follow some good practices. I'm going to do some decent naming on here. I'm going to start off and I'm going to name my groups. I'm going to call that one right side. Since I did it first, I know that's right, and we'll call this one left since I did that one second. And then I'm going to rename my sub-assemblies also just to make it a little bit easier. And I'm going to put in the assembly name. That makes it easier when you're doing corridor modeling, especially if you do real complex corridors with lots of baselines and lots of regions. It's real nice to have these kind of long names in the different sub-assembly components. So I'm going to say this will be center line to EP, and we'll call that right. And just to save me typing, we'll copy that, and we'll throw that, and we'll call that side left. Okay, let me grab my name again here. All right, so I've just got those named, just make it a little bit easier for me to work with it. So we've now got those pieces. The next step is to add in our pavement sections here. And bear with me, I got a little cheat sheet here with all my dimensions in it, so I don't have to hunt for these all the time. And I'm going to come into my assembly roadway. There it is, so Imperial Roadway. And I'm going to do the lane outside super. Okay, and come into my properties. I'll do the right side. We'll do a width of 24 feet and a default slope of -2, and I'll leave all of the depth options as they are. I'm not going to worry about those for now. So this one's going off to the right, so I want to select this mark point that I put in off of that link, so we'll attach that there. And then I can come over to my properties, say let's do the left side, and then I'll pick the mark point on the left side. And I've now got both my pavement sections. All right, so I'll hit enter a couple of times. That'll close that down. I'll come back into my palette, and I now want to do my median curb. So I'm going to go to the Imperial Structures tab, and I'm going to use this subassembly here called the Urban Curb Gutter General. All right, and bear with me as I get my data on what I want to put in here, because there's quite a few parameters here. All right, so I'm going to do the right side of my roadway here, but my attachment point, I want to attach it to the top edge of pavement here, so I actually want this subassembly to go to the left, so it's relative to where you're attaching it. So I'm going to leave this one on the left. I want to use the gutter edge. I'm going to do a fixed slope, and I actually want this to drain, so I'm going to go 2%. So this is going to be a spill curb. Subbase is good. Subbase extension will set to 0. My subgrade super elevation, I'm just going to do a numeric value, and we'll set that to 2 as well, so that'll match my curb. And my dimension A, and I have to, if you want to see the dimensions, you go into the help for the subassembly, and it'll give you a picture of what the A, B, C, D, E, F, G dimensions are. I think this is like my pan, and that's the base is 12 inches. We'll do a 1 inch. That's my face of curb offset. We'll do 6 there, 8 there, and then my bottom dimension will go 12. That's, I think, my rear depth. All right, so we'll put those in. And then again, I want to make sure I grab the top edge of pavement point marker here. So I'll pick right there, and that will throw the curb on that end. And then we'll do the other side, so I just need to come here and change my side to right, and we'll slap that one in on that end there. So I've now got my median curb drawn. All right, I'll hit enter twice, and those are done. Let me go in again just to keep this clean. I'm going to go back to assembly properties here, and we'll rename everything. Bear with me as I do this as quickly as I can. And This was Pavement. Median curb, and let me rename this one. Okay, so I got those named. Just again, it makes it real easy to kind of keep track of what's going on. All right, I'm going to finish up the median now, and then we'll go do that custom polyline subassembly for my outer curb and sidewalk. So to finish this off now, I want to have a link that goes from here across to here. So I have to do that in two pieces. And the first piece I want to do is, and actually they're both on the Imperial Generic tab here, is I need to put in what's called a marked point. That's going to be my target, and that has to occur first in the processing of the assembly. So I'm going to attach that, and I need to give it a unique name, and we'll just call it, let me check my notes here just to make sure I'm consistent on how I'm naming these. All right, so this is going to be R-TBC for top back of curb. I'm not worried about the point code because I'm not going to use it for anything. So I'm just going to come in and I'm going to select the marker circle here for the top back of curb. All right, and it adds that on there, so there's actually now a marked point on here. So if I hover on that, you'll see it highlights just that one circle. So there's my mark point. Now what I need to add is off of my Imperial Generic palette again is this link to marked point. So let me click on that. And I need to then put in the name of the marked point I want to connect it to. So I'm going to go type in, boy, that was almost English, R-TBC is what I call it. Make sure I'm using the same name. This one I do want to have link codes on it. So if I build a surface model, this will be my top surface, and also in this case it'll also be my datum surface. And I do not want to omit the link. So I'm ready to attach that. So I will select that point on the top back of curb here, and then hit return twice to finish the command. And it'll put that in just as a kind of a placeholder while I'm in layout mode. It doesn't actually calculate this until I apply it to a corridor, and then whenever I rebuild the corridor, it will connect that link to this mark point. And let me just show you what we've got here. Let me go back into the assembly properties, and I talked about those need to occur in the proper order. Typically, we build the right side of the assembly first, so we add our mark point to the right side. Okay, maybe I'll rename that. TBC point. Okay, just so I know what that is. Oops, let me throw in my -R just in case I need that later. And then here's my link. And we'll rename that. And we'll just call that median. I'm not going to call that left or right because it goes all the way across. But in this construction list, my mark point should be higher in the list than the median because it actually processes them in this order as it applies these to the corridor model. So you kind of just have to keep that in mind, whereas if I had applied the mark point to the left side and the link to the right, that's not going to work when you build your corridor model because they occur in the wrong order. So that's really kind of the main thing you have to watch. So usually right side gets built first, you put your mark point there, and then our link goes at that location there. All right, so we'll pick OK to that. Let's finish this off now by putting in our curb. So let me move this up to where we can see it here. And I've already drawn the polyline just so you guys don't have to watch me draw a polyline. Let me pick on that. It is a closed polyline, and the only thing I'm going to suggest is that you do start drawing it at the point you want to connect it. So I've actually started it at that vertex as the beginning point. I drew it going in a clockwise direction just out of old land desktop habits and then closed it back on itself. But that point, the start point, will become the connection point when I build a subassembly out of that. Okay, this process is actually fairly easy here. So let me go into quarter now, and I'm going to do create subassembly from Polyline. So let me select my polyline, and it's going to ask me for a name, so I'm just going to call it rolled curb sidewalk, just so I have a name. I can give it a description. Code set, I'm not going to worry about too much because this is just what it's going to use to display it in my drawing here. So we'll just use the no label one. Actually, let me go with point markers instead. That way we can see where all the point markers are. All right. The mid-ordinate distance. I have an arc segment right here in the subassembly or in the polyline. It can't have arcs in subassemblies or corridors, so it's going to convert that into chord segments. This mid-ordinate distance is going to help it figure out how many vertices to put in there. If you want more vertices, you put in a smaller mid-ordinate number here. Okay, I'm going to go ahead with the default of 0.1. All right, so I should get 2 or 3 vertices along here that I can actually link and put point codes on and actually extract those out in my corridor model. All right. Link creation. All right. How do you want to apply links or define link properties on this subassembly? If I do none, I can't do any links. That means I can't do a top surface or datum surface when I do volume calcs. Okay, I can still generate feature lines and build my surfaces off those, but I may want to have links. Okay, if I go to a single link, it will apply the same link name or the same link item all the way around, and I'm not sure I want to do that either. So I'm going to do multiple, where I'll then be able to apply or assign a unique link name to every segment on this polyline. All right, so I'm going to go multiple. When I'm done, I'm going to tell it to erase. So I'll go ahead and pick OK. And I now have a subassembly with multiple points and links. Okay, so you can see on my arc segment here, if I zoom in real close, you'll see that they are now chords, and I do have a point at each location. Okay, so it still looks fairly rounded. To apply the link and point names here, let me select it, and I'm going to right mouse click, and I can now add codes. All right, it gets a little cumbersome here, and I'm going to add in a code top, and I will pick that link. So that is now using the link, and unfortunately I have to repeat it over and over again. I wish it would let me do a bunch, and we'll add top. Let me zoom in and pick that segment. And it's kind of a cumbersome process here, but that's going to be top, that segment. And we'll apply it to that one. Darn exciting stuff here. And you got to watch and make sure you pick the links, because I'm going to assign codes to mark points as well. Fortunately, I picked an easy word for me to type. Oh, there's one more chunk in there. All right, so we'll grab that segment there. All right, so I've now got my top point code, or not point code, link code applied all the way around. I can also do, let me go ahead and do it to the right click again. I'll add a code, and then say I want to do, I don't know, BW for back a walk. I can come in here and then select that point marker, do another one, maybe do TC for top of curb, and I'll select that point or that marker right there. So I can start getting some of these linked points, and I can generate feature lines off of those. I can apply labeling and cross sections to those points. Okay, so I'd go through and then I would apply all those items. Another thing I can do to this is, well, we can remove codes, but I can add a shape to this. And it says select links, and I'm just going to window the whole thing and select all my links, and I've now created a shape, and then I want to apply a code to my shape, and we will add a code, and we will call it curb, and select, there we go. So I've now, and you'll see I've got my curb hatching in there, so I've now applied my curb material, so I can now apply the hatching, and I can also do quantities off my cross sections. I can get curb quantities or concrete quantities. So I've got all of that built in, And I'm ready now to apply this, so I will do one last step here. I'll pick it, right-click, and I will add this to my assembly. All right, and it's going to be based on where this first vertex needs to attach. So I'm going to come in, I'm going to pick my top edge of pavement, and it'll pop it in on that side. All right, to do the left side, I'm going to select it again, right-click, and in 2009 you can actually mirror subassemblies, or I can copy subassemblies. So I'm going to say let's mirror it, and then I'm going to come over and tell it where to attach the mirrored version. So I'll pick my left top edge of pavement, and it will mirror it and throw it in on that side. So there's my full assembly. So I was able to draw the polyline, create a subassembly from it, apply my links, my shape, my shape names, attach it to the corridor, or not to the corridor, to the assembly, and then mirror it to create the one for the left side. And I just think out of habit of working in Land Desktop, I kind of still do everything on the right side and then mirror it to get the left side. All right, so we've got the assembly built. I'm not going to worry about naming these for now. I'm not going to do any transitioning. So I'm ready to apply this to my model, and I've got my center line here. I've pre-drawn some polylines for my edge of pavement transitions that will apply, and then I've just thrown in a quick profile here. So let me go into corridors, and I'm going to start off with creating a simple corridor, and we'll call this RD01, and corridor style is fine. We'll pick OK to that, and my alignment, let me zoom in and pick my alignment. My profile, I want to use finish grade, and then my assembly, we'll zoom in and grab that assembly. All right. Target mapping, I have nothing to map here. I'm not daylighting in this one, so I'll just pick OK to this for now. All right, so we now have our model thrown in, and you see we are getting links across the median here. So let's go in and we'll just do the view edit command, and we'll just pick that section there. And we'll see, oh, I'm using one of their styles, but if we zoom in here now, we'll see as we step through here, I do have that link going across the median. Okay, and what I'll do is I'll transition this, go ahead and step through a couple here. Okay, so you can see pretty simple sections here. So let's throw in the transition so we can see how that behaves. All right, so I'm going to use these polylines. So what I'm going to do is my alignment's going this direction. So this is the left side, no, right side here. Let me turn my head the right way. So this is going to be the right side, and I want to attach this polyline to the edge of pavement link that we calculated here. So let me edit my corridor model. So go into corridor properties, and I'm going to go to my parameters tab, and I'm going to select targets. All right. And this is where the naming comes in real nice, because I, again, turn my body. I want to do the right side. I want to do the center line to edge of pavement transition here. So I'm going to click on that, and I want to use a polyline. So I'll select from drawing, and I'll come in and I'll pick that polyline. All right, so that adds it to my list. I will pick OK and OK and OK. It will rebuild my model. And what you'll see now is it transitioned it over to where that has pulled across. Well, the problem is I need to tie this piece in now, so let me do it again. And we'll come back into my corridor properties. And I'm going to do my targets. And on the right side, I want to do my pavement section for the pavement. It is. So with alignment, there's my full pavement section. So we'll come in here. I'm going to use a polyline again. I will select from drawing. I will grab that polyline, pick OK and OK and OK, and it will process through now, and it'll pull my pavement back out. So I've now been able to stretch this across center line here. So let me see how I did with that. And we are going to go to corridor, view and edit section, and we'll start about right there. And so now we've got the normal sections. So as we step through here, what we'll see is it will start to transition across center line. Okay, so let me pull that out. Okay. Flaw I see with it right now is it's still holding. There's our this circle here is our centerline crown point. It's still holding that 2% down off of there, so we may not have quite the correct cross slope on there. Somehow I need to change it so it goes up. So I may have to do a profile for the edge of pavement to get it to follow along with that. But you'll see this link transition across here is closing that gap real nice, so we're getting a real nice clean model of how that edge of pavement's going to behave. Okay, let me zoom back in on that. So, you know, almost identical to what you're going to see built out in the real world, other than I need to adjust where my elevation is here. I need to pull that up. So I'd have to do a profile for that alignment. All right, so that is the extent of the presentation. Let me open up and see if anybody has any questions here. So let me unmute. Any questions from anybody on that? No, I will take that.
One section where it didn't build the curb.
One
model in the corridor.
In the corridor itself?
Yeah.
One as I was doing the stepping through them here, or?
No, in the plan view.
In plan view? Okay, so let me close it down and take a look at plan view.
It's about in the middle between the two curves, the reverse curves.
Right in here? Oh, look at that.
Right there.
Interesting. So it had, and that's right where my link crosses center line. Very interesting. I had not noticed that. Good eye. I will have to research and see. I am not aware of what's causing that. And of course my laptop is terrible in displaying 3D here. Yeah, I'm sure it's the feature line that doesn't seem to want to continue those feature lines across center line. And it may be, let me try one thing, and since I'm recording this, I don't want to mess around with it too much. But I'm going to check corridor properties. On the feature lines, one, we're telling it to connect all those points, and I'm wondering if it's potentially this branching option. So let me tell it to connect extra and see if that, and it didn't seem to do anything here. So let me quickly rebuild my corridor here. And yeah, so that's not going to do it. So interesting. I've not played with this. Is the first time I've done this, so of course it's going to mess up on me. Yeah, so that's not going to fix it. So I have to see if we can get those to continue across. I'm assuming that's what the problem is there. It just says this is probably a right edge of pavement, and then it crosses over, and these are actually being seen as different feature line points. So the only resolution I could think of possibly is coming back into my subassembly and how we put that marked point on here. I think that's the one that we see is still going through, is I can add my own marked points to these locations, give them my own point marker names, and it will then continue those all the way through. Because if we do look at it, we'll see that a couple of these are going all the way through here. So my guess is that one is the top back curb where I put that mark point in, and it also looks like my pavement one is getting carried through also as well here. Oh, that's my polyline. Never mind. So my polyline is visible there. So I'm thinking if I add my own mark points at those locations, give them unique code names, it will then string them in for me. So, all right. Any other comments or questions? Good eye there, Michael.
And did I see correctly that looking at that, when we looked at it in sections, it doesn't carry, if you tell it go minus 2% on the right side, it doesn't switch it to a positive 2% when it crosses?
No, because everything's relative to that link location. So we said go negative down away from center line. So even when I pull it to the other side, it's still being going away from that center line point. So that's why it stayed negative. Okay. Really, the only way I know to fix that is I need to do a profile through this area here. You know, I mean, I could do it at the section level. I could, for those handful of stations, go through and edit the elevation at that point, but then I'd have to modify it every time. So, and then using that link at slope, I'm not sure of any other way to, excuse me, to change that. Well, again, I could do it, I guess, by editing. And show you just real quick here is I could come in and on the corridor, not properties, sorry. Let me view and edit here real quick. On this one, I could come in and on my properties here do an override, and that's going to be my right centerline edge of pavement link. Let me come in here, and there's my slope. I can override this and change it to 2, so it's going up, and now it calced it going up. And it should pass, like it does, it should pass through. So I could go in, and I can actually apply that to a range of stations. So I could say, well, you know, start at station 2150, go to station 3150 or whatever, and do the same thing. Okay, so that would probably be the quickest way to fix it, is just do station by station overrides here. And that way, if I change the width, as long as this one stays to the left of center line, a positive slope will work for us. The only other thing I could think of doing, and I probably would not do it in the middle of my corridor model, is there is a conditional subassembly where I can say, if it's this, apply that. But that goes beyond what I want to show here. All right, any other questions? No. All right, well, let me stop the recording. Hopefully those of you who watch this in the future get something from this, and hopefully